Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much indeed, Ebru, and your team for inviting me here to celebrate the progress that has been made in women's sport. It's absolutely fantastic that you've organised this conference again, and I was told when I arrived that there is a real buzz in the room. Well, wow, you can feel it, I have to say, and I'm in awe of all of you and commend you for the passion and dedication that you bring. I was slightly nervous when Ebru said you had great speakers yesterday who inspired. Sadly, you've now got me, but hopefully the day will improve as it goes on. But I do want to take this opportunity to reiterate the government's commitment to supporting women's sport and to share some of the work that we are undertaking to maximise women's football as well as women's sport more broadly. Now, I can see from the packed agenda and inspiring speakers involved that this event will bring together fantastic individuals from across industry who share my passion for making women's sport a real priority. Because we are at a defining moment in women's football in this country. The women's game is taking centre stage and is rightly commanding the same respect as the men's game. I have seen this success firsthand, having been lucky enough to attend the World Cup last year, but also to visit grassroots and elite facilities across the country. It is time, working with you all, to seize on this momentum and to transform the future of women's football. In recent years, we have been able to see some great progress in women's sport. The Birmingham Commonwealth Games saw, for the first time ever, more medals for women's events than for men's. And next up, we have the Paris Olympics and Paralympics, where women's sports will be a highlight. It delights me to say it will be the first Olympics to have the same number of female and male athletes participating. And I'm looking forward to seeing history made at the largest sporting event in the world. Now, as women's sport hits the headlines more, and greater media coverage and sponsorship opportunities are increasing. Media visibility has continued to be strengthened by innovative partnerships such as DAZN, 4-year deal with YouTube. This will help to make sure that Women's Champions League can be watched globally and, importantly, for free. We are also seeing some record-breaking sponsorship deals being secured, such as Vitality's investment in a number of different women's sports, including football, cricket, and netball. And while we're happy to see so much progress for female athletes, we know that there is always so much more that can be done. We know from evidence that men and boys are still more likely to be active than women and girls. This is something that we want to change. And so our new sports strategy, Get Active, sets out our policy plans for the sports sector as a whole, with a key element being to increase participation levels for all. And the strategy sets out new targets to increase activity rates in England, with the aim of seeing 1.25 million more women active by 2030. Because we want to create a lifetime of engagement with sport and make sure the right structures and pathways are in place for both the current and the next generation of talent. And a key element of that, for me, will be equal access to PE, and that is why we are working closely with our colleagues in the Department for Education. It is only fitting that I now focus my attention on women's football. We've had some great successes in women's football over the last few years, and yes, it is the women that are showing the men how to do it. The 2022 Euros, the 2023 World Cup were fantastic moments for the game and have clearly inspired so many women and girls to watch or to take up football. And the proof is in the stats. Recent BBC analysis shows that there are now twice as many registered female football teams in England as there were just 7 years ago. There is a huge amount of support for women's football at the moment, with exciting initiatives, including the work by Female Athlete Health, by Barclays Women's Super League, Women's Championship, and the Well HQ. Back in 2022, we as a government commissioned Karen Carney to undertake a review of women's football, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Karen and all of her team for putting so much effort and dedication into that important review. The review was published in July last year and identified 10 strategic recommendations that should be implemented to create a sustainable future for women's football. We support all of those recommendations in the review and see it as an opportunity to transform women's football into a world-leading sport. We want to see the significant economic and social benefits, as well as raising minimum standards for women's sports on an international scale. So to make sure the review's recommendations are progressing, we are convening an implementation group at the end of this month. This meeting will be attended by stakeholders who have responsibility to deliver the recommendations and ensuring mutual accountability and, importantly, ambition. I'm also delighted to tell you that we will be establishing our first board of women's sport at the end of March. The board will drive knowledge sharing, tackle issues and challenges that face women's sport, and identify opportunities for women's sport beyond football. The first meeting will focus on physical health and welfare, and we are thrilled to have so many experts, academics and key members of the sporting industry supporting us in this endeavour. And as a government, we want to make sure that all women and girls have access and opportunities to play sports and be active. So to do this, we're investing over £600 million in school sports over the next 2 academic years. And in addition, we're investing over £320 million into grassroots football and multi-sport facilities across the UK by 2025. All of these projects in England need to have a clear women and girls access plan if they are to receive funding. And we've committed to go further still. At the end of last year, we announced that we are investing £25 million alongside £5 million from the English Football Association to create the new Lionesses Futures Fund. This fund is expected to deliver up to 30 state-of-the-art 3G artificial pitches across England. And these pitches will provide gold standard provisions for women and girls. They will provide reserved peak time slots, women and girls only evenings, and priority bookings for female teams. I am personally really looking forward to seeing the positive impacts that these investments can bring, because as the Minister for Sport and Equalities, I am absolutely committed to creating an environment where women and girls feel safe and are encouraged to be in sport and physical activity in whatever capacity they wish. And on that point, I remain hugely concerned about the effect that targeted online abuse can have on women and girls in sport. Social media abuse aimed at athletes has risen in recent years, with a report showing that 1/3 of posts targeted towards sporting stars now contain negative content. FIFA found 152 players at the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, received targeted abuse. Players at the women's tournament were 29% more likely to get abuse than players at the men's game in 22. And of course, we have seen too many examples of female presenters and commentators suffering this abuse. So I want to take this opportunity to assure you that we, as a government, take this behaviour very seriously. And I'm personally committed to doing all I can to stamp out discrimination of any kind in sport. I will be hosting a roundtable with sports sector, broadcasters and social media companies to discuss the effects abuse has on athletes and possible ways forward. We know government has a big role to play, but that we will only succeed by working with sports and with so many of you in the room today. As I mentioned at my recent Select Committee appearance, I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone up and down the country many of whom are sitting before me today, for their continued work on women's sport. I'm talking about everyone who works in the sector, those who volunteer day in and day out to help their communities engage in sport and physical activity. Not only do you contribute massively to sports, but through sport, you also help target important wider issues, such as loneliness, mental health, and so much more. So I want to leave you by saying and assure you that these are not just warm words from me. I am with you in spirit and determination. I thank you for all that you do, and I look forward to working with you all so that we can all ensure women's sport continues to flourish.